Hi everybody, Ciullini here. Here we go on another adventure in our natural healing series. Guess where we're going today? Sound, music for healing. Very calming, very tranquil sounds, very meditative, very relaxing, healing music. Excuse me. Alexa, pause. Just want to start with a little example there. Now, boy, now you wish that music was still on, and now you got to hear the sound of my voice, right? I'll try to make it as calm and tranquil as possible. I'm not going to be able to match that. Just want to give you a little starting example there to kick things off today. So, sound is medicine. We're going to start over here. What is sound? Einstein's vibration. Sounds are, we get sounds, molecules are vibrating. It's going to create sound. Einstein, famous physicist of our time, said that everything is vibration. And he was talking from a subatomical level up to the universe itself, that everything is all subatomical particles that make up the universe are vibrating. They are oscillating. And when scientists study sound, vibration, at the atomic level or any level, they're looking at frequency. They measure it in frequency, in hertz, H-U-R-T-Z. Sometimes we hear like megahertz on a radio station, that type of thing. So, and what a hertz is, that vibration, that oscillation of any sound has a frequency. For example, I click right now 3 times, 1 time, several times at once. Well, if we're getting 1 click, that's one, it's measured, the frequency, 1 hertz. 1 hertz. If we get 2 clicks comes in at the same time, that's 2 hertz. 3 would be 3 hertz, 40 would be 40 hertz. So keep that in mind, because we're going to talk about this frequency level or hertz, and it's very significant in the healing world and how it affects us, our biochemistry, our brains, our whole physiology. So sounds are created naturally. In nature, we got beautiful, beautiful sounds out there, very healing. We all know that. We've experienced the sound of a waterfall, a stream flowing, even the sound of the wind blowing. Many, many sounds out there. Man creates sounds as well. We can create our own sounds here, right? Rhythm. We're going to talk about rhythm. Drum circle. Very, very tranquil, relaxing sounds. Very nice one. And one of my favorites that I use a lot. And that goes right through you. And it keeps going. You can feel the vibration sometimes on your skin. You hear a certain sound, and maybe even get little goosebumps from it. But you can feel it. It vibrates. You feel it in your nervous system. We're very sensitive. Our skin, the nerves there, peripheral nerves. So we feel that. Sometimes sounds and music goes right through us. So we're going to talk about different type of sounds as well. We want to look at how we react to sounds. It's infinite. It's infinite, right? Those are very soft, tranquil. If I yell, all of a sudden, it startles you, right? So we react positively and negatively to sound emotionally, and our bodies react different ways physiologically, our brain, our system, to different sounds or the different hertz. Very, very significant. So we're going to go there. Now, there's a principle in physics. It's entrainment principle. It's a law of physics. Now, we've all heard a cricket chirping. And we hear a group of, it's chirping, 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 chirping. All of a sudden, it's in another group, or we hear a field of crickets. And you don't hear independent sounds. They will all be chirping together. So this entrainment law of physics tells us, and with a group of frogs, matter of fact, if you put a cell from a heart, 2 cells across from each other. They've done studies, you've probably heard of this, in petri dishes. And they will be beating at different cycles or rhythms. And what happens is one will take on the frequency or the rhythm, that oscillation of the other. That's entrainment. And we find that all throughout nature, and we find it very unique in the way human entrainment is. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but we've all experienced that in nature. I remember I used to love to hear a group of frogs. It was very tranquil outside my home and would put me to sleep. So this is a big principle we're going to talk about. Now, in 1965, there was a doctor, a physicist, Christian Huygens, and he had pendulum clocks. He was in Europe. He had pendulum clocks on his wall. And when he put one up and then set a second one, and then he did experiments, a third, a fourth, and fifth, he found that first there are different timings, that pendulum click, 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 click. Well, they go into sync. All right, you can do this experiment on your own, and that is entrainment. So sound, that frequency, that velocity, and what happens is in nature is that the stronger one, right, will influence the weaker frequency, and then the weaker one will join in. Now think about a flowing river, and you have a stick falls into a twig from a tree and it goes down in there. It's going to go with the force of that strong river. It's going to go with the same velocity or oscillation. That's entrainment. It's going to go down there. The wind is blowing a tree. The wind is strong. Well, those branches aren't going to go slower or faster than the wind. They are going to go hand in hand in sync with the the wind. Entrainment principle. This is called a rhythmic synchronization. They get into a rhythm. We just had a little rhythm there. And humans are very, very rhythmic, very unique. We're going to talk about that, how we have a rhythmic entrainment that we go with. So again, that's a law of physics that affects everything in the world, everything in the universe, everything in our bodies. So when we get sound initially comes in at its molecules that are vibrating, they're oscillating at a certain frequency. They come into our ear, into our inner ear, the cochlea, and we have little cilia, little hairs in there, right, that very sensitive, and they pick that sound up. And then what they do is they send that sound, goes now from there to our motor, or to not motor, but to our neurons. Those neurons are carrying that signal to the brain, and the brain takes that frequency, vibration, oscillation, and transfers it into the sound that you hear. So very significant, interesting process. And this is sets up what we call neural circuits, or the neurons have circuits. They have little systems, right? And that's going to be very significant, but what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Now, brain waves are measured also in hertz. Okay, and the average brain in these neural circuits that take place in the brain, central nervous system, that affects every function of our physiology of our bodies, they are between 30 and 100 hertz. Well, scientists have done a lot of study and looked at this a lot, and they have found that when a body is functioning normally, okay, central nervous system, whatever your heart and lungs, different systems in your body. We've talked about homeostasis on my other videos very, very much, and having homeostasis when the body is in balance. We've talked about the Eastern principles of keeping the yin and the yang, things in balance. Talked about that on every one of my videos. Right? But they have found that at 40, when systems in the body are functioning smoothly and properly, they're usually oscillating, vibrating at 40 hertz. That seems to be a very, very magic number in science. So let's take a look at this and let's see where we're going with this. Now, those are called gamma rays. When we get into that brainwave area of the brain, those are called gamma level waves, or gamma waves. Now, there's some interesting studies that have been done with a sound chair. A group of scientists got together and said, well, let's see if we can't use this 40 hertz, which affects these neural circuits. And in a sense, like that yin-yang, it puts them into balance when we have 40 hertz. So they develop these systems. They have a chair, they have a bed, they have little portable systems that they use for therapy, for all type of therapies. And they're using 40 hertz sound waves, vibrations. And they've done many, many, many different studies. One most significant they did was with groups of people, large groups that have Alzheimer's, dementia, memory problems. And they did, the initial studies were only 3 times 30 minutes sound of the 40 hertz 3 times a week for 30 minutes. At the end of 5 weeks, they saw miraculous significance in the changes in the memory and behavior of these people neurologically. So very huge. They did many studies with this 40 hertz. 40 hertz. There have been many groups that have used this 40 hertz for all different types of healing and therapy. And I'll quote some of these studies and some of these phenomenal things that have happened as a result. Just fibromyalgia. There was another big study they did. Started with one woman, and it had such significant results with reducing her pain. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't work. She was just in agony on a level from 1 to 20. They rated her fibromyalgia at a level 17. So I can't imagine having that kind of pain in your body all consistently all the time. As a result, she couldn't sleep. She had a problem working, so on. She couldn't even sit or stand in a certain position for a significant period of time. They did a short-term study with her using the 40 hertz sound, and she got 50 to 60% better in this. So I think it was a 6-week period, if I remember correctly. So then they took 38 people, and again, they showed very strong significance with all 38 people. So this is science, guys. It works. There's something to sound and music, something huge. We're going to look on a large scale here. You've probably all heard about this. You can probably look it up on the internet, where opera singers are people at a very high frequency, or a certain frequency. They can shatter a glass. Okay, so it can have I guess we could call that a damaging effect as well, right? But a very powerful effect. We're going to talk about that effect later. The Tacoma Bridge at one period of time was a big suspension bridge, and what happened is it's a windy area and the wind started blowing. We've all seen this example on the internet, or maybe an earthquake causes it, but what happens is that wind starts a vibration, and that starts going and growing, and again, that effect, entrainment effect on a large scale, affect that whole bridge, and it started oscillating and vibrating and going to a high level, and the whole bridge collapsed. So scientists started looking at this, and they call this the destructive sympathetic resonate vibration when this occurs. So there was actually a school teacher, a professor of music, that got involved with these scientists, and they started looking at this principle, and they said, I wonder if we can use this at a microscopic level to heal people. For example, in the studies they did were to cure cancer, to kill cancer cells. Can we use this destructive resonating sympathetic system to destroy small cells? So the first thing they did is they started searching for a device that they could use. And they found this device, this RFTD, Resonate Frequency Therapy Device. And it is very complex. I'm not going to go into the whole science of it, but it's very fascinating. You can look this up, the RFTD. It's pretty fascinating stuff. Anyway, long story short, they found that with this particular system, they could focus vibrations. And in this case, I believe it was let me make sure I got it, 440 hertz. And they were able to target the cancer cells, and they show in videos cells around it that aren't being harmed, but target particular cancer cells and destroy them, right? And they also kept the cancers that they weren't destroyed from growing anymore. So huge significance in science there in studies. This again was at the microscopic level. Now, also, they got on this premise. There was a woman who did a book, The Rainbow and the Worm. It was May Wan Ho, a physicist, right? And she was doing studies at the cellular level with microorganisms. And her hypothesis in this book, I would love to read this one, it's pretty fat. She says that all microorganisms or cells are pretty much made up or have all the properties of liquid crystals. So I first looked at this study and I was like, oh, that's pretty fascinating. Well, think about your laptop, your computer screen, your LED, right? LCD, liquid crystal displays, right? We know that we can change those, and electronic signals change the color, they change the shape, they change the picture that's there. So these scientists got together and said, well, maybe we can do that. And that's how this concept came up. So pretty significant stuff. Let's come over here. Changes in our physiology. This is what sound does. It changes our physiology. All right, those vibrations. It changes the brain and affects the whole physiology of your entire body. Mind, body, and spirit can be affected by sound, by music. We all know that, right? That's not rocket science. It affects our mood. It affects our behavior, right? We've all had sounds that all of a sudden I yell or I make a loud noise that disturb us, right? There's a certain music even that people don't like or it disturbs you. And then there's other music that's very, very likable to you. You enjoy it, right? And everybody's brain and their frequencies affect us a little bit differently. So we all know that. Different strokes for different folks. So that's your interpretation, how you perceive it, how your body is physiologically perceiving that, right? That's why you like it or dislike it. It's that particular vibration for your body, that isolation, that certain frequency produced by that particular type of music. Now, just going back in time, obviously, all cultures since the beginning of time had music. There was a music flute that was found that was 45,000 years old, the oldest instrument ever found. So it dates back pretty far. It's a big part of the world. Right? All cultures have it. It's a universal language. It's something that brings people together socially and that social entrainment, right? And it bonds us and makes us closer together. We've all experienced music together, and it's a wonderful experience when we have that. Humans change their rhythm and frequencies, right? And not just here, but chimpanzees can't do that. They're the closest things to us. The crickets don't do that. The frogs don't do that. They stay at one frequency and don't change. That's very, very, very unique with humans, and that probably has, again, that effect on our brains. But we can get together in a group and we can pick up that beat, right? We can dance together, we can move together, we can clap our hands together to a beat. So that's very, very unique to human beings. Sound and music relationships, that's huge. It has a calming effect, or it can be unnerving. Again, so the yin and yang, the opposites there. It can be relaxing, it can be energizing. So it's quite a tool in our lives. Music can make us happy. We've all experienced it. It can make you sad. There's sad music too. It's stimulating, it's mesmerizing, it can hypnotize you, music. It's good to use while you're driving to relax you or to energize you in the morning if you're a little bit tired. It's inspirational. It's moving to us. We all know that. It stimulates your senses. Here's a big one here. It's nurturing, obviously. But music not just stimulates your senses, but think about how it transcends time. Right, we all can experience, no matter what age you are, unless you're an infant, you'll hear a song and it can take you back a year to yesterday. It can take you back 10 years. It can take you back 30 years, depending on what your age is. And you can smell the smells, taste the taste, and remember all the things going on. And that experience comes back to you through music. It transcends time. Look up on the internet, and I think if you just look up ballet star, here's the ballet music. And this is a woman in a convalescent home that she's there, I think, with her grandson, and it's very moving. She's barely moving. She has Parkinson's very bad, dementia, and she was a famous ballet star, I believe, in South America. And the grandson plays this song that I might even have been Swan Lake. It was a white ballet, very formal ballet, and she was the swan. She was the prima ballerina, the star of the show, doing a solo to this music. And when I believe it is Swan Lake, and when he plays it, you see her start to move and start to react a little bit, and then all of a sudden she starts moving, and then they show you the video of her doing it when she's young, and this must have been 40, 50 years past at least, and she is mimicking and has come back, and she is doing the movements right to the timing and the same specific movements that she was doing in that ballet. So I find that really phenomenal. So that's the kind of thing that music can do to us and for us. It's an amazing tool for healing. I have Moon River down here, Moon River Man. There's a woman I'm going to talk about here. She's a pianist. She started playing the piano to her infant that was in the womb. the baby was very, very premature, and she told a story where it was so premature they were not going to try to save this little infant. So a nurse actually, when they had to be a certain weight, or they said it's just too premature, we can't save them. We can't put the time and effort and medicine into this, which was shocking to me. So she said one of the nurses put a thumb on the scale, just enough to get the baby to 1 pound or whatever it was, to where they would keep the baby. Long story short, the baby had heart problems, all these conditions, being premature. The baby did survive. Good news. We're going to go down the road. However, she is a pianist. She brought in recordings. Can I bring in recordings of my music? She's a performer, professional. And the nurses said, of course, of course. And they noticed, well, not noticed, but they saw it, because the baby's hooked up to all, we see all the vital signs, heart rate, blood pressure, so on and so forth, right? The blood oxygenation levels, all the vitals increased significantly when she was listening to her mother's piano music that she had heard in the womb. But then, as the days and couple weeks went by, they noticed that all the babies in that ward, all their vital signs improved. So again, not rocket science, and we just think about, we all know how music affects us, but therapeutically, healing, that's pretty huge. Music is amazing. It's amazing what it can do. I regressed a little bit, but the Moon River, she was at this performing at a convalescent home, and she finished, and the one head of the staff came out and said, I want to thank you so much. This was so significant. It was amazing. And she thought, well, I'm used to getting applause at performance and stuff, and this is just a very meager thing. And she said, well, she says, I don't think you realize what happened. And she says, there was a man who you were playing Moon River, and he was singing along, Moon River. And she says, yeah, I heard him. I noticed him and heard him in the background. He was singing very, very low. I thought he was doing that not to disturb me. She goes, well, that man lost his wife about 6 months ago. He shut down a couple days later. He would not receive any visits from his family. He did not speak for 6 months. That song, Moon River, they found out was his wedding song. And it took him back in time, and it sparked him to live again the memory of his wife in Moon River. He sang along, and after that he asked for his family to return, and it was a very beautiful story. So I wanted to share that with you again. Very, very significant. It changes our perception. Again, like this gentleman, it changes your perception of life. It changes your perspective on the world, on reality. Right? It can change from hot to cold, from bad to good. Right? So it's pretty amazing what it can do for us, guys. I just want to mention a couple places real quick that you can go for music. It's all over the internet, but there's a type of music called Vedic, ancient music for healing. You can look up this. It's called VedicSounds.org. There's all type of things on there. You can almost make up something in your mind that you want to hear for healing, for stress release, anxiety, relaxation, enjoyment music. Just type it in. Obviously, you know this on YouTube. But there's some amazing stuff out there. You can put in the 40 hertz sounds, and you're going to get some pretty amazing stuff. Excuse me just for a moment. And I apologize. I'm going to bring this over, and hopefully you can hear it for a moment. But that's sounds, vibration, music that's at the 40 hertz, that magic number. Just go on to one of these and try it. Maybe next time you're stressed or you're working, you can, if you can, if it's allowable, you just put some headphones on or just put that music on softly. See what it does for you. Look up one of these Vedic music, meditation music, relaxation music. Excuse me. But just give you a couple little examples here. Maybe we'll just kind of keep that going in the background. Scientific effects of music and sound. It changes our brain waves. We know that. Science has showed that again and again and again. Again, those circuits stabilizes those circuits, that entrainment that happens physiologically. Those neural circuits become balanced, especially at that 40 hertz. Changes vital signs. Again, going back to the piano player and the children, right? Very, very significant. Specific frequencies are being used for specific conditions for treatment. in health in medicine. So that's a big scientific discovery. They find again that 440 hertz killed the cancer cells. They found in general the 40 hertz sounds are very good to keep these neural circuits balance, all the systems in the body. So they're using that in from A to Z in healing all types of illnesses, diseases out there, and conditions that people are going through in modern day. I just mentioned a few here. Heart attacks, they're using them strong for people rehabbing on strokes. They're seeing very significant. There was a study I saw where they had big band music for veterans of the World War II that had both mental and physical disabilities from the war, and they showed tremendous differences in their healing and recovery processes once they started using the big band music. And we've all heard about that. I talked about the use of laughter and how that is healing in the last video. This time it's sound and music. Same effect. I have Dancing Man here. There was a video, you can see this online, and the man has very severe Parkinson's, and sometimes with Parkinson's you actually freeze. I had a client, and I had to go sometimes, a friend and client, and his wife client, and I went to his home, and one time he was frozen, and I just had to touch him, and it got him moving again. But it can be very, very severe. Well, what happens, they gave him a music of his choice. What do you want to hear? And he had this favorite tune and song, and they put it on, and then all of a sudden, and he's just kind of frozen and not moving, and all of a sudden he starts moving, and then he starts dancing around the room. It's joyful to see it. The effects of music, of sound, very, very stimulating, very healing. It stimulates all areas of the brain. Stimulates the right hemisphere a lot. It hits all the lobes of the brain, which affects your whole body. Stimulating those lobes, of course, affects every area of physiology, but it really stimulates the right hemisphere. That's our area, not so analytical, more creativity. That's where memory and the creativity comes out. So music, very good for creativity. They did studies with children, and this is not rocket science either. And they found that children that have music in school, and that when they're young, at the younger years, when they're growing and developing, and education is so important, they see significant differences in the kids that don't have involved in music and the kids that are involved in music. Their grades are much higher. Socially, they adapt much better. So it's just plus on the learning curve. Music. If your kids aren't in music, get them in music. My children have been playing classical guitar. My whole family does it. It's very involving. It's very relaxing. It's very bonding. It's healing, and it develops you mentally and physiologically. So again, healing. Let me see here. I put down it's creativity. Can it save a life? Can music save a life? I'm sure it has saved lives, right? Just therapeutically. Look at that gentleman there. His life was pretty much over, right, after losing his wife, and the music brought him back. And so in that case, I think, yes, it saved a life. Right? It definitely can change a life. Absolutely. If you look at, I put down here, subjectively and objectively, this is a proven, music and sound is a proven therapy. We all know subjectively, sound is very therapeutic. And now, objectively, science is telling us, yes, there's science behind this. We know it works. We know it's good for us. So I want to make sure I got everything covered here for you today, guys. That's it. Sounds, music, healing, clunk, or big difference. Cellini